Okay, so let me start. I guess I did start. And Manish is here.
Hi.
Hey Manish, it's your question today. The whole day, the whole,
Okay,
the whole session, more or less. So let's talk about that.
great.
Okay, I guess we are at our time, and others can join as we go forward. So let's start. So this is our what 90th PC Open discussion, and today we are going to talk about Manish question about how you read an email and then make it or convert it to a record in Business Central, more or less. So in the last meeting, Sam did point us to a different to a link which was able to, and then Manish also followed up with some links that he found via email. I spent some time today to kind of go through them, and maybe I guess we are able to do it. I was able to do it in the Power Automate, but I didn't complete it till Business Central. But I think that'll be easy enough. So let's try that. Okay, so the people who are watching the recording, uh, they go to this link to register for the upcoming BC Open Discussion sessions. If you are here and not a default attendee, then drop your name and email on the chat, and I'll make sure you get invited going forward. One additional thing that I got a question about, that if somebody want to move out of the default attendee list, just send me an email or a note on any social media platform, and I'll just move you out of the default attendee list. That's easy. So no problems. Okay. So what's this all about? Based on the three articles that these guys sent, and I did read about it. You start building a flow about when a new email arrives on your inbox, or if there is a generic inbox that you are trying to use to kind of get these requests via email. And then you select the sender of that email who will be sending it. So if there are multiple parties, I'm pretty sure you can do that. And once it is done, then we will convert that email body from HTML to text. So let's start with that first. Let me open my Power Automate window and let's create a new flow. So what you do is you do a automated cloud flow. And if it is a small, let me know, I'll zoom this in. We'll start with the automated cloud flow. Then you give it a name. Let's say we are requesting customer info. So let's say create customer ID. And you need to choose the trigger, which is when a new email arrives. So pretty sure I'll be able to filter out when a new email arrive, which is V2, and then there should also be a V3. That kind of reads your Outlook. If you haven't done email flows earlier, in the next step you'll be asked about authenticating, which is an OAuth process to kind of validate that you're the right user and
Oh,
all those things.
sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt in between. So those triggers are predefined triggers that you
Yes.
searched from the list.
Yes.
Okay, so can we create triggers there, or are those fixed trigger that Power Automate offers?
These triggers, I guess, are created by the applications who exposes these triggers. Like there are some triggers for Business Central and all. So they
Hmm.
are more or less done by Microsoft, or I'm assuming by the app owners. Like in these cases, if we go back, I guess there will be others. Let's go back. See this. So if we try to create a new Cloudflow, these are all the triggers that are available from different vendors, more or less, who
Okay,
own this, right?
okay,
I don't know that there is a way to create automatically because it says search or select a trigger from the below list. There's no option to create one.
okay.
Alright. And then new email. Okay. So when the new email arrives, you do a create. Once you are done with that, which folder you are trying to point to. So if in your Outlook you have created a specific folder for which you would like to, where you automatically move your items from a particular email sender, then you should use that folder. Normally, whenever a new email will come, it should go to your inbox until unless you have already defined a rule in your Outlook to kind of move that email to a different folder. So once you have selected the folder, then you need to decide from which person or from which email this email will come from. So for the demo, let's use my Gmail account. So any email which will be sent by this email address will be used in this flow or in the automated flow. If it is any other email, it's kind of filtering out all the emails that are in your inbox and only filtering for emails which are coming from this person. You can also set up other filters more or less if you want, that if there is no attachment, then don't scan it. If there is something specific written on the subject, then scan that, otherwise skip it. So this is kind of filtering which emails to pick to process from this flow. If you want everything, you can, but that's up to you.
One more question in
Go
this.
ahead.
That's include attachment is no. Is it something that if mail contains an attachment, it won't read the content of the body for that mail?
Yes,
If
it's just filtering it out, right? So if you know that there will be an attachment, or if it doesn't matter, I'm pretty sure you can blank it out. So it doesn't filter out based on is there an attachment or not.
okay,
So it's just filtering. It's just your set range. If you think from Business Central or NAV perspective, set range or set filter, that you are just trying to reduce the record set on which whatever next happens will happen on. Okay. So once you have done that, this part is done. And then you kind of go towards the next step of your flow. And that's the button, next step. Now email have a subject, email have a body, email can have attachment and things like that. So now you need to, we know that we are going to read the body, but then as we tried in the past, even with the APIs, graph APIs, we saw that everything in that email is kind of automatically converts to an HTML. So we need a way to convert it to an from HTML to text. So there is this library called content conversion, if I remember it correctly. Yes, conversion. And that library have different kind of methods. It seems only one at this moment, but there is one method that we need, which is HTML to text conversion. So now what we are trying to do is we are trying to convert anything that's in HTML to a plain formatted text. But then an email have so many things. As I was saying earlier, it have a body, it have the subject, the senders, the BCCs and the CCs and all those things. So now we want to target which area of that email we would like to convert HTML to text. And what we would like to convert is the body in your case. So you can then select from here which of these areas you would like to convert that to. So let's choose the body. So using this step, whenever a new email arrives, which satisfies the filter that we have set on that, the body of that email will come to this method and whatever is in the body will get converted into text from HTML. Let's go ahead. Now, when we have body into the text, what we need to do is a little bit interesting, which took my most of the time. So let's go back here. So then what happens is once you have the body, you surely will have a fixed pattern of the email that you would like to receive, so that anyhow you want to read that email, you should have a pattern pretty well defined. And that's where the data operation becomes important. The two major operation that we will have to do based on a pattern that I have used for the sample is a split and trim. What a split will do, once the text gets converted into from HTML to plain text, it can split parts of the text, and then the trim is used to remove any empty spaces in whatever the value that you're getting. If you are so much into Power Automate, which I'm going to be going forward if I have some time, you need to surely spend some time on this link, which is how you use different conditions in Power Automate. Like these two are kind of also defined there, and then there are others also. So just for the sample, what we have is, let's assume this is the email that we receive from for a request to create a customer. In the body, there is some generic text, and then assume that this is the format where the first part is your field caption, more or less, separated by a space, colon, and then in space, and then the value starts. And if you see, that pattern remains same everywhere. And then at the end, it says end of record. So this is our kind of more or less the static format that we are requesting customer. And you can have different formats. I'm just using this as an example. So if you have this format, then how a split works is something like this. A split goes something like this, that if split the body of the email, which we have already converted to text, and split it to, first you find the customer name, space, and colon, which is still here. As soon as you run this operation, what is written to you from from this command is this text gets split into two parts, and they are kind of two sets of arrays, that how system converts the split command. So what it does, it says whatever the field or the fixed text is specified here, till that point it will go into the array index 0. So it splitted it till this point and move that into index 0. Whatever is left after this part goes into an array 1. Is there any confusion at this part, or is it clear? Because this is the major thing that we'll be doing into it, other than the Business Central part.
Right, it is clear. One more query on this. Suppose it's written customer name. Is it dependent uppercase or lowercase?
It's up to you, as in it's your format, you can define any way you want.
No, means if customer can send it customer name in caps and low sometime in lowercase, will it work in that way?
Let's test it out. I haven't, but let's test it
Okay.
out. I guess there should be a part of the flow which can convert or kind of ignore the case sensitivity,
Right,
which
right, right.
which is searchable, right?
Okay.
So how we do that is, there is something called as compose, or data manipulation, or data operator. So you can either search for compose directly or search for data operations. It's kind of part of the data operation. So once you find the compose, you can choose that. And then in the compose, you need to define the input. Now, as I was giving you example there, it's not a direct input that you can take, that, oh, bring the all email body into which is converted to text, and then do that. So what you'll have to do is you will have to write an expression for it. And then the expression goes something like this, that the first part we want to do is a split, right? So we'll do a split of which control. We have this on body. Let's do a body of which control. We have this control as HTML to text, right? So it should help me. I guess this is the name. Let me see here. HTML to text. Once we have defined that, what we are looking for is, and let me write this down, this format into a notepad, or maybe I gave it a try. So let me see if I did or not. In my, okay, come on. does not like my. Let me see if this is that. Okay. Can't open my browser. Oh, I can, I guess, but it's not opening. This is the problem that when you start working on multi-screen, it gets hard when you just have one screen. No. So let me see. I might have one which I would have which I was testing today on the said item. So let's pick that text so that we know what we're doing. Okay. So let's say this is the email. And I'm not interested in this. I'm just interested in this part. Okay. Let's copy that out. What you are looking for first is splitting till this point, because my customer ID is actually placed between this and this, right? So let's try that out here. So if I do something like this, which is, let's say, split from the body, and the, the control where the text is HTML underscore text HTML. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to find that is my customer ID. Whatever comes out of the result of it kind of goes into an array, as we were talking about earlier, which are these two arrays, array 0 and array 1, right? Array 0 will give me this if I do till customer ID till this point, whereas the array 1 will give me with the value more or less. So what I'll do is I'll pick the array 1 out of it, which is coming out of it. Then whatever the result of this split, I again have to split it, but this time I'll be looking for the customer name. If it is confusing, stop me there. What I'll do is I'll do another split on whatever the result comes out of this. And then what I'll do is I'll search for whatever my next field is. So this. What will come out of this is this would have been the value of the first split like this. And then after the second split, what I'll get on one is, I'm looking for this. So I'll get this in one. So this goes to one, whereas this part remains into the 0 index of the array. So when I have resplitted it, what I'll do is I'll get.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No.
So first is in case of first split of customer ID, the 0 will contain customer ID, and for 1 from D it will capture all the details from D on.
Yes.
Everything. Right. Now you did customer name after that.
Right.
Then it should it will include customer ID plus its value D1000.
No. Customer ID is gone because I just picked the one. Okay. Let me go back. Let me bring the text back again here. Okay, here it is. So this is that need to be very clear when you're doing this, and most of the time I spend on this. Okay, so when we ran this part, right?
Right.
When we ran this part, anything till this point, to be very frank, went into the index 0.
Right.
Right. And anything after that, what is written below this line is in the index 1.
1, correct.
That kind of get as an output of this.
Right.
What I did is whatever the output of the first split, I re-split it on that part by looking at the string customer name.
Okay. Understood. Yes.
So whatever is left goes into 1, but whatever is before that goes into 0. So then this went into 0.
Okay.
Okay. Now, as if you look at this email, which is here, I just copied it till here, and then next time it will have some spaces at here, and it might have some spaces here and before this, right? So to make sure that all the spaces are gone, that's where our trim comes into picture. Whatever the output of this, the trim will automatically trim out any spaces which are there in the result of this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So that's how we got the customer number or customer ID, more or less. Then to get the customer name, what we'll have to do is we will just pull this out from here. We'll place it here because the HTML text, we are not modifying it. We are just using it as a data source. And the next part is the customer address. This one will give me the customer name. Okay. Going in the same way, I'll pick the customer address as the first split, and then the customer email as the second split. Continuing the same. This time, I'll take the customer email as the first split, and then this end of record or whatever you want to call it as the end delimiter. Anything between this will give me the customer email. So far, so good?
Yes. So it's something like that. What's between customer ID and customer name
Becomes your customer ID.
Yes, that's the value of customer ID, and trim will remove the extra spaces. And similarly, what's between customer name and customer address is the value of customer name.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll start plugging these into different expressions in our Power Automate window. So the first one is this. Let's do it. Okay here. Oh, something went wrong. Okay. Okay. Home. It says trim, one bracket, split, body, HTML to text. Then my customer ID, where the space is required. The customer name is required, and then 0 in the return. Okay. I should have done this in my trial when I was doing it. So let me go back and see if I have it. Okay, I should have it here. Oh, I lost the flow. Okay, let me test this out. It still exists. We might use this. I'll just remove this. All right. So what I have done here is the same thing as I was talking about in the customer ID. And let's see what the mistake we were doing. Copy this into here and see what it is. Oh, it might be the cases that I was missing. Okay, yeah, everything else remains same. I think I missed out the cases because the name of the control, which is on the top, was not correctly cased. So in the same way, if you look on all these are the same commands as I was talking earlier, which is this will convert, which will take to get the customer name, will take it between the customer name and customer address, and so on and so forth. Customer address, and then the customer email. Okay.
Can you for one sample just create, because how is this customer email and customer address is coming here? The name of the
Oh, okay.
value.
Sorry. Yeah. So what you do is you just need to rename this for your visibility. These will be random names which are generated by the system, but you can rename these based on whatever you want to call it. So if you create a new one, sir, it'll not say it as this, and even after the expression, it'll not say it like this. You'll have to manually rename these controls for your understanding. Okay, so let's, as I was saying, let's give it a try and let's test it out again if needed. So what we're doing is on the data operation, there was a compose. Okay, compose. Once you're done that, let's pick one of these just for the demo purposes. That, click on it, go to the expression, build or paste your expression as you have, click OK. So, sir, it'll call compose. If you add one more, it'll call compose one and things like that. What you have to do is you will have to come here and rename it, whatever you want to call it, for the better readability of it.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay, so now we have our 3 or 4 fields that we need kind of insert into Business Center, and that's where the Business Center part starts. So now we have all the inputs that we needed from the email. What you can do now is you can search for a connector for Business Center. There are both the connectors. One is for Business Central, which is Business Central Online, and then there is a Business Central on premises if you have customer on premise. So yes, let's use the Business Central one. Then there are these default actions available from the Business Central, which is one for creating a record, deleting a record, if you have to execute an action, if you have to find the record, if you have to do a get, and updates and all. So let's try to create a record, which is this.
Sort of premium over means here that premium license is required for this, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's
a big
what,
problem.
yeah, that's a great problem. So
And I think so for a single user, $15 for Power Automate is also required, right?
from the licensing perspective, I'm not sure. So anyone else have seen it and know the pricing and all about this?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, because there is a kind of with SaaS, I guess you get a Power Automate. I don't know what that is and how much that is, right? But I don't think it's a premium, as in what was that? Premium from the Business Central perspective. It is, I guess, premium from the Power Automate perspective. I'm hoping. You might
Okay.
want to check that because they don't want. I don't think that they want to limit you based on your Business Central license because that will be unfair. Because in Business Central, premium mean access to the service and the manufacturing module. There is no relation with Business Central, right?
I'm pretty sure it is Power Automate, Rob. I was messing with this earlier this week.
Okay.
And when I clicked on it in Power Automate, it came up and asked me if I wanted a 90-day trial
Right.
subscription to Power Automate Premium. It didn't seem to be Business Central Premium.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan, to confirm that. Yeah, and that also doesn't make sense. As in, Business Central Premium is from the Business Central side. This is from the Power Automate side. Okay, Manish?
Okay.
And how it costs and how much it costs, you'll have to figure that out, I guess.
Sure.
But, all right. So once you do a create record, then here comes something which we have talked about, I guess, 20 meetings ago. What you do is you choose the environment where you want to insert it or create the record to. Let's say our BC open discussion environment that we have. Inside that, you need to define the company, let's say Cronus USA, and then comes the important point, which is the API. Because all these interactions happen via API. So can you use the standard Microsoft API? It's up to you and how you want to operate and what all that provide. Like if you want to use the standard ones which are available, you can always run through the, I guess they are in v2.0, and then once you are here, you will see all the APIs which are associated with it. Okay, but we have discussed about this in past, and let's quickly build an API page to support this request, which is with just 4 field. So let's do AL go, and this is API demo. Once you're here, okay, what you can do is let's do the cloud sandbox, and the environment name we set here is, let me go to my business center if I have it here. Okay, discussion. Okay, so here's the environment name of type sandbox. So let's do that here and download the symbols. Okay, so what our end result, end goal here in Business Central is to make sure that we just build an API page which accept these 4 fields, and then using that API, kind of it gets into the system. I'll remind again, people who are not using one of the good extension that I have used in VS Code is this AZAL extension. So if you're not using it, it makes your life super simple. Let's start with AZAL tools and code actions. Once you start using it, you may find it hard without this extension when you're doing developments. I use it so frequently that if it is get uninstalled for some reasons or it's not available, I have trouble. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So you have to create API page. I don't have to remember everything that's needed to bake in an API page. What I can do is, as soon as I right click on the top, you see an action, which is new AL file wizard with AZAL DevTools. Let's select that. What we want to create is a page. Choose that. What is the number you want to use? So I'm not sure what numbers are free there. So let me pick a weird one, 851. Okay. What is the object name that you want to give is up to you. Okay. Let's use our prefix, take prefix, and customer API. And then what is the source table? Simple. You can pick and choose from here. What type of page you need is API. And as soon as you choose that, it'll tell you what minimum things you need to assign to an API page. So I don't have to remember all these properties that who is the API publisher. Let's say it's me. There's the API group that you want to call this. And then based on that, these groupings are available. So let's say I say BC open API. What API version you have, and it is not with respect to Business Central version or the standard Microsoft API version. Your versioning of API is in your control. It is not in relation to what Microsoft is doing. And these 2 properties are important because this is what makes it enable there. If you read about the documentation of it, the entity name is majorly referring to one single record, like a customer, whereas an entity set name refers to a collection. Okay, so let me name it something, but read about it before you start using these properties. I'm just using it for demo purposes. I'll refer it like this, and then you go next, and then you have an option to choose which fields you want. Now the fields that we are looking for is number, and we are looking for, what are the other fields? I forgot. Name. Okay. There it is. And the next one that we are looking for is my address. And then the last but not least is, it's email. Yes, email. Okay. Once you do that, there are other things in API page that you need to remember, which is about the camel casing of your fields and all. That all is taken care by this ALAZ extension. So you don't have to worry about that. Oh, what kind of name I'm giving to the fields, because the extension is taking care of it. You can't have spaces. You'll have to read about all the things about building an API page. But if you use this extension, they are kind of taken care by the tool itself. But do read it. It's important. There are properties that you need to, there are defined format how you used to name the field. You can't use spaces. You can't use, I guess, the only way it supports is the camel case. Now, one thing that this tool doesn't do, which I would like this tool to do, is what happens otherwise is the first field in your page is considered as the ID field, more or less, that it is used as the unique identifier. Yes, our field is the unique identifier, which is the number, but from the system perspective, there is a field which Microsoft recommends to use, which is our system ID. So the first field on your API page should be the system ID, which is a default field available in every page in Business Center. And that field you need to define here as the OData key fields. So this is what system will use, and you'll see it while we are using it as kind of the unique identifier of a record. So far, so good. Any confusion?
No.
All right. So let's build this. It's here. Okay, here it is. And let's take the path of this and let's deploy this in our environment. Extension management. Okay. And let's do install of this. Take some time to get deployed and make available, then it'll be available to be used everywhere, either via Postman, via Power Automate, wherever you want to use it, that'll be available in a while. You can check the status here. Let's see. Still happening. It should not take that long. It kind of doesn't update automatically, so you have to kind of come back and refresh this. And you'll see the extension here once it gets published. Okay, it seems it's in progress, not yet installed. Okay, still in progress. It seems it's installed now. Okay. So now let's go back to our Power Automate window and let's try to refresh this. It doesn't got refreshed, so let me just for the of it so that it refreshes everything. Okay, let me choose it back in. Okay, and then here I should be able to see the new. Saurabh, who is this? This is the publisher that we have defined here on our VS Code. Let's see this. Let's try to match it here. So what we are getting on this screen, which is the API category, is the publisher name, which is Saurabh in this case, and then the API group, and then the version of that API. So we get all three things. These are the three things that are needed and mandatory when you start building the API page, and then you'll see the users of others in a while. So once you choose this, it'll show you anything in that group that is kind of defined here. So what you see here is your entity set names, this property. And then this one is default for subscriptions and all. But then you choose this and that connects your API page here, and you will start seeing the fields that are available in that API. Now, if you remember, I did add one field which is the system ID, which is not visible here, because whatever the first field or the field that's defined here, I'll have to check is it the first field or this field, because if you don't define it here, then whatever the first field is taken as the unique key field. But we only see the rest of the field, not the system ID, because that is something you can't generate the value to. It's a system generated value. Anyone have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is this mandatory to use the OData key field?
Yes, if you don't use it, the system will automatically picks the first field as the OData key field.
Which is the number, which is supposed to be the customer's number, supposedly unique. So that's fine, I guess.
No, the whole concept of IDs that's generated, and if you have seen the history of API when they got introduced in Business Central, in the V1 of API or in the beta version, I guess, Microsoft did add a ID field on each table which was exposed as API on a specific ID 8000, I guess. And that was acting as a unique UID for that record. Later on, when they knew that it's going to be big and people will be using APIs for all the integration, they changed their plan and they defined the system ID field on every table, which are system fields. So anytime a new record gets inserted, it automatically gets a unique UID, which gets stored in the system ID. And that is kind of more or less considered as the, if you want to call it, secondary primary key. Because when you do a get, you can also do a get with the system ID now in the system. So if you like, just for the example, if you create a variable here for, let's say, customer, and then let's create a procedure and let's try to get a customer. So you can do a customer get by system ID. So if you know the system ID, you don't have to go to traditional get where you have to define each and every primary key fields, because in some table there can be a combination of field to define the primary key, right?
Indeed.
But if you know go ahead.
Is it possible to define more than one OData key field?
No. So let's say if you know the system ID because you have an integration built with Business Central, from outside the Business Central, you know the system IDs of, let's say, sales orders. So you can just pass the system ID to get the record and then do a modification on it, rather than saying that, oh, I'm sending you this document type and then this document number, which then need to translate one to an integer and one to a code value. Then it goes back to Business Central, tries to read that record and then returns you the record. If you know the system ID, you can just say, oh, I need record from this table with this system ID from this company, and it'll return you the whole record directly.
Well, it's a physical field, so I could definitely set the record dot system ID, right?
You cannot.
How am I supposed to read it then?
You can read it, you can't write it. It's a system defined field which will automatically get assigned as soon as the records are created for the system ID. Then there are other fields around that, which is the system created date, which will get automatically assigned a value whenever the records get created. Then there is a modified, last modified date and all, right?
Created by as well.
Yes, and modified by. And those are the fields that you cannot change. You can use them for reading if required.
Okay.
So I cannot change the behavior as in values on those fields, but these are the 4 fields which are available. One is system ID, and then yes, it's created by. Okay, let me see. They all start with $. I don't know why I can see it. Yeah, here it is. System ID. Oh, only one starts with $. Then system created at, system created by, system modified at, and system modified by. So these two store the last modification info, and these two store the creation, the first time info. So if you have done a customization where people would like to know who created it and who modified it, you can actually use these fields to do a lookup on the user table to see whose ID is there, right?
Yeah.
Because
most
that
definitely.
will be stored in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So rather than creating additional field, you can surely do a lookup on these values. Okay. So once we are here, and as soon as I clicked on this number field, I get a lookup or a drop down options of what all I can use in the assigning of this value, which are the outputs from the previous steps that I've set there. So the number gets its value from the customer ID. Okay. The name, it gets its value from the customer name output. The address gets its value from the customer address, and the email gets its value from the customer email. Okay. Once you're done with that, just save it out. Okay. Once it is set, your flow is ready to go, and we recommend you to test it. Okay. This is just for the demo purposes. In a real world environment, you would not directly do a create record. You rather will do a get record, and if not get, then create, right? And if get, then modify. All that is possible. We have seen that there are other API options available which can do a get for you, which can do a find for you, and then modify for you, right? So don't literally follow these as it is on your production environment if you are planning to implement this.
So, sort of, suppose the customer with the same mail ID is already existing. So can we check whether this email ID is already there in the system or not, and then we can decide whether we want to modify or create? Because there might be a case where the same mail ID or the same mail would have been received twice or thrice.
That's what I'm saying, that you should always, in a production environment, you should use the another triggers or actions from Business Central, which is find record, right? So if you don't find record, then you do a create record. Otherwise, if you find a record, then maybe you either do a modify record or skip, don't do anything, right?
Okay.
So that all can be defined. So you can do a find record, and then it'll ask you certain details. What are the environment name and details? And then in the same way, it'll ask you about other options, right? You can also limit what kind of search you are doing. And then again, it'll happen via APIs.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll see that if required. Not a problem. Let's delete this and let's first test it out. That is it the creation is working or not. And what happens if I send two emails with the as you're saying. So right now there is no customer with my name. So let's send out that email again, which is here, and I'll resend it if possible to the same admin. Okay. So the email body is already there, which, oh, it doesn't show me that. Yeah, here it is. And I don't have to worry about it because my split will start from here. So anything before this will go into the index 0 of the split. So I don't have to worry about it. And then my next split will be here. So I'll get the value here. So let me add this, resending this as customer found. Okay. Let's hit send. As it's going to be sent here, let's wait for this flow to start executing. Oh, is it disabled? Okay. Oh, sorry, this disabled. I'm hoping the mail did not came yet, but let me see. Let me see in my Outlook. Just saw it. Let me see if it's running or not. We're using Power BI for this, which is cool. Okay, so it didn't find that. I guess I started late. So let me send it again. Okay. Send. Oh, it failed. It did run 20 seconds ago and it failed, which is weird. Let's see what failed here. Flow run failed, and it'll give you all the details. Okay, so it did run all the steps correctly, but here there was a problem. What was the problem? Let's read it through. Click on it. It'll tell you that the inputs that was sent are the number came like this, which is a wrong number. The name came like this, the address with this, and why it is like this. Let's go up and see the HTML conversion. Okay. Oh, because there were multiple times that was found, I guess that's why it got failed. Let me copy the text and send it again.
Yeah, send it as a fresh mail.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And this, and let's go back here because it failed twice because I sent it twice. Ready? Okay. Starting the time now. And then there are other ways that in case of the flows, you can define that if it fails, what happens, as in you can surely send an email to the respective parties and all. That all is possible. And it does operate on that direction also. So it's running right now. Let's go in and see. Oh, it completed, I guess. So it completed. Let's go back into our business center and see, do we have a customer here? That thing. So as soon as it gets refreshed, we should see a customer with the details that we have sent on that email based on the format that we have. Okay, here it is. The new customer that has been created by the flow. And you can always go back and inspect the results of flow that came from as in all the steps of the flow. You just send these 4 info. They got in Business Central with the new customer on the defined company. But the interesting part is you can actually come here and see what actually happened. So it shows you that this came from this person, as in this is just showing you the filters. Then the HTML and to text conversion, this was the text that it received from that, and this is what it converts it to. Once the conversion happened, it went to fetch the customer ID based on our expression, and it got this based on that statement that we have written to fetch the customer ID. In the same way, it was able to fetch the customer name from the HTML to text, same with the address and email, and then it came into the create record. Now, when it come to create record, all these parameters were kind of hard coded about the company and all, and then these are the values that came from the input parameters that we have defined earlier, and then here's output. You get out as the system ID of the record, which is generated by the system in Business Central. And these, why only these 4 fields are visible here? Because they were part of our API page. So when you do a get, you surely would like to get a system ID to see what kind of record is that, as which record. If I have to point this record in future, how I point it. So these fields were available in the output, but actually your output looks something like this, a JSON format, which is this. Okay. So that was just the simple example, I guess, that you can run through Power Automate. You can surely make it efficient by, as I was saying, do an if else statements, and not if else. Actually, you can have multi-part of the flow. So like if I would like to add in step here, okay, I should, let's say, if I have to do something else at this point. So you can have the condition control when logically, if this is a get statement, then in case of if you get it, what you want to do, you can do it here. If you don't get it, then how you do it here. Right. So based on the results that you get, if the system ID is null or if you don't find anything, then you execute this part. Otherwise, you execute this part. So you can have all those conditional flow. Or if the creation failed, then maybe you would like to send an email out to some defined set of people. You can also include that into your flow. Any thoughts, questions? I guess we are very near to our time.
Saurav, hello.
Yeah.
Sir, can you send the mail again with the customer name in caps?
Oh, in the format. Okay. Yeah. Let's try that. Yeah. I forgot about that, but let's give it a try. I think it may fail, but let's see. I'm thinking, but let's see. And let's do this as name. Will that be sufficient?
This will fail.
It'll fail, right? Because it'll
Right.
look for the exact thing. And let's see.
We'll have to use some wildcard to make it case insensitive.
Yeah, there should be something which, which will, there should surely be a method which can make it in case sensitive, as in.
Yeah, no, you just need to make it uppercase within the activity where you've just set the expression split. There is upper, which is a Visual Basic function, actually, a known one. You could set to uppercase.
But there's nothing that can kind of normalize the case or rather than skip the case scenario, and it failed as we were assuming this. And it exactly failed at the point here. It was able to find the customer ID, but the customer name as it is was not found. And as Sam was saying, let's go back and try it out. Can we actually do that? Okay, let's pick the customer name and let me do one new one so that we know what we are doing.
Yeah.
So,
Can you put at the rate before the expression?
okay, but it's not in the expression. It's one part of the value that we are trying to split based on, right?
But it's not going to update a specific record because it doesn't exist.
Sorry?
It's not going to update anything since the record doesn't exist with that customer's name.
No, I guess we are talking about the first part of the email, which is the caption part, more or less, right? So what we did in the last email, which we sent a while ago, we changes the kind of caps position or caps for this. We did all this caps on, which is a caption, not the value. So what we are trying to do is when we are trying to do the split here like this, as we are talking about this, whatever the pass string here, we need to make sure that this is not taking the case into consideration. It is not about the result. It is about the text that based on which our split is working on. And I
Can we
doubt
put
that
at
we
the
can
rate
change
before?
this.
Can
Before
we put
this?
at the yeah?
Okay, let's give it a try. Okay, so in that case, I'll just delete this, and the problem happened at customer name beginning with. So let's try this, and here you are saying, sir, at this point,
Yes.
our old nav buddy at the rate. Let's see, I'll put it here also because I've also changed this, and let's do an update. I think it will look for exact what do you call that? Also,
Case
it'll also
sensitive.
look for the at the rate. I'm hoping that this works, but this seems a nav thing. But then this link will surely, which I was sharing earlier, this link will surely have something. I'll have to read about it. But I'm pretty sure that there will be something on that to kind of skip the cases more or less.
Do
Okay.
we have to save it?
I did save it, I guess. Let me see. Yeah, it's set. It's saved. Let's see. Just be sure about it.
No, it gets saved. It's actually on the execution part that would cause a problem. It gets
Right.
saved. That's
Yeah.
when you execute that, it would cause a problem, I guess.
Yeah, let's see that. I doubt at the rate will work, but who knows? Sometime, you know, it's a cross language things. Do it again. Go back to flow. And let's wait for it to refresh.
No, it failed. Yeah.
No, it is previous. I'm looking for one more failure or success, whatever happens. Oh, it did fail. And this time it failed again at the same place where it is looking for the customer name, but what it is seems to be looking for at the rate customer, I guess. So it's failing. So Manish, I'll share this link with you. I'll also do my bit because it's important to know. It's a great question that what about the parameter names and all. But I'm pretty sure this will have something which will help you to figure that out.
Right, sir.
It's a little bit confusing article, so you might need to spend a little bit time into it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, or just search for it. How? Because I don't think if it was about the value, then I'm pretty sure that there will be something which can make it either caps on or caps off. But what we are targeting right now is the caption of it, right? Which maybe there are other ways, but the split way will stick to the static captions more or less, because the split way is looking it from a text value perspective.
Right.
I
Wouldn't it be
doubt that
easier?
you'll find something, right? Go ahead, Sam.
Wouldn't it be easier if you use an Excel workbook? I mean, the cells would be actually located at known places, so it's easier to
Yeah.
locate these news instead of going through an email, convert into HTML, and use trims, splits.
Yeah,
Workbook
as it
Excel are easier.
right. There were other solutions also which I sent it to Manish or talked about it. But the thing is, then it's also about
I
customer
I
that
have just
what
shared.
crosses the
I have
call.
just sorry. I have just shared that there is a function I think need to apply to upper.
Okay, but that's on the value, Vijay, right?
No, for the conditional. For
Yes,
the
it's on
column
the
condition
condition. Yes, to upper. Right.
to upper.
Ah, nice. So this is I have to try the expression in the condition that contains two uppers. Value the flow becomes like this. Okay. Hmm.
Because one side you can put it as uppercase, right? So
Oh, okay, got it. So yeah, one side you can put it as uppercase. Wait a minute. Hmm. But it is not about the one side because it is actually looking for this. exactly looking for this.
Exactly.
It is searching for this text string. Now, either I'll have to do this, that first I convert this as it is and then use that as a parameter in this, which may be possible, right? That first I do an uppercase thing on this as a separate action, and then whatever
But
the
it's,
output print is, use it here.
I'm sorry, but it's not supposed to be uppercase. This is proper. Each letter of the words is actually set to upper. So it needs to be proper customer, then proper name. Just the first letter is actually set to uppercase.
Yeah. No, I guess what Manish is trying to do with this question is to make sure that there are no situation where this solution fail. It's more about the failure situation, because customer, as in when you are relying on an automation to solve your problem, then either the format need to be respected by the other side of the equation, or it will fail because it's static on certain parts. It's not generic, right? But I'll surely give it a try. As in, what I'll have to do is I'll have to do that uppercase thing, and then whatever the output that comes of it will be used in the parameter of these splits, and I think that that'll be possible. But yeah, that'll surely add more steps into this. But instead of saying it hard coded here as this, I should be able to use a existing field into this, which will be an uppercase value of this.
Do you think this would help? They claim to create a proper string function.
Sorry, you did send. Okay. It is.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. How about this? As you guys are sending all this, my light bulb also went up. How about this? That once it gets converted into text, why don't I change everything to an uppercase?
How will you save the values in the lowercase?
Oh yeah, yeah. The values need to be in the lowercase. That's interesting.
I
That's
thought about it. Can we have two contents? One for comparison and one for saving. Two HTML to text.
Yes, you can have, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, we can add one more step there to convert it into caps, and then use it for comparison.
Right, but then the values. Yeah, I know it seems pretty lame right now, but I guess it's more also about me being pretty new to this. I'm pretty sure there's a better way of, rather than doing all these four steps separately. To be very frank, but as our hand are more good in Business Central, more or less, at least better than this. So it seems a little bit complex right now, but I'm pretty sure that there are other ways. And Manish, I remember your question, and I'll surely do some research on it. That why can't I first do all this in one go? And the second thing is about the case part, because that surely is something that we don't want to break.
Right.
Okay. Anything else, anyone, before we call it for the
Anyway,
day?
it was great.
Yeah, it was fun while I was trying it, and it actually opens some part of my brain that okay, now if I have certain things that that are part of my job, maybe I'll build a Power Automate solution for my customers, because it's for sure less coding, more configuration. But that's what is good, as much as we can do low code things.
Codeless
It
world.
is interesting actually because you could definitely create Power Apps applications to create sales orders without actually, having to do it in Business Central. So the sales rep would have a Power App on their smartphone or a tablet, whatever you call it, and then they would be able to create sales quotes, service quotes on the fly without having to authenticate to Business Central.
Yeah, those seems to I guess I have heard about those kind of solutions, and that's really interesting, as it rather than
Yes.
doing crazy stuffs. Yeah, Power Apps is another area that I haven't touched much yet.
Webhook and Power Apps.
Yes. Anyone else was saying something? I guess someone got cut off in the middle. Okay, if nothing, I guess we are good for this week, and then we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thank you, Saurabh.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Saurabh.
Thank you.
Sam, did your
Thanks,
problem got
Saurabh.
solved?
Thanks.
Come again, please. Yeah, I didn't actually. I just commented. I don't remember. I commented one line, and I was able to actually work as expected.
Great. Great.
I'm not sure actually. This is a custom function from the base app. I did receive an email. I tried to comment those 2 lines. I implemented the customization you've sent me, which is tens decimal and ones decimal. It worked fine, I guess. It really worked.
Great.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Sandeep. Really.
Oh, welcome. Welcome.
Okay, sounds good, guys.
Saurabh,
Yeah.
that's a great session. If you have 2 minutes, I have some issue related to that oath too.
Okay, let me stop the recording and we can talk about it. That's okay.